Welcome back to DIY guitar making at Eric Schaefer Guitars. We're going to go ahead and take a look here at what we did for the third day of working on Guitar 106. Really not a whole lot. All I really did was construct this gorgeous looking lattice here for my modified lattice bracing system that I like to use for the backs on my orchestra model size instruments. So I say modified because right now it looks like a true lattice, or at least like a double X bracing. I would say if it was really a true lattice bracing, you would have an extra set of lattice joints down here at the bottom, and possibly a little more at the top, maybe not because the neck block gets in the way. But what I do here instead, and you can see the pencil line here and here, I just do a cross beam or cross strut. Nobody really uses the word beam in bracing for acoustic guitars. I guess I'll be the first. A cross strut here, transverse strut, running across here, forming a triangle, which a triangle is an extraordinarily strong structure. So this not being a true lattice brace, and it being a little bit modified like that, the reason I do that is because the center structure here, which I'm calling sort of this portion, I like to make that very, very strong so that I can really whittle these braces down so they can be very, very small, but still strong at the same time. So you'll get more stiffness with less mass, at least in theory. And then around the perimeter, this whole thing will be nice and slim and sleek. Okay, so these bars are going to be whittled down quite significantly around the perimeter of the back plate here. Now all this is keeping in mind, by the way, a sort of 80-20 rule. It might even be a 90-10 rule. It's just not a real rule in Lutherie. I'm just making this up on the spot, which is to say that the back plate is only like 20 or 10% the significance of the top plate, right? So you want to put 80 or 90% of your effort and thought into what you do for the top plate. I like doing something like this for the back plate, but if I'm being honest with myself, I know that the real gains to be made in tone are with the top plate, simply because the top plate is excited by kinetic energy directly from the string, whereas the back plate is excited by resonant energy. So it's a much more indirect. And just to have a visual representation of what I'm talking about, there will be a strut running across there and another one somewhere down at the bottom. That's all work for me to do later today. So let's take a look at the lattice itself and just talk about how we got here. So a lattice brace is similar to how an X brace is constructed. In fact, it's the same, there's just more lap joints, okay? So each one of these is a lap joint. A lap joint is simply, it's a notch cut on each beam. So let's say there's a notch on this side and a corresponding notch on this piece, and then the two notches just bite into each other. I would take this apart to show you, but honestly it's so tight that I don't want to do that. If you take a look at that, you can see that's a very tight joint. How do I get it that tight? One thing that I like to do is I cut these corresponding notches that I just talked about. I cut those to be, I'm not aiming for a precise fit. I'm actually aiming for a slightly undersized fit. A fit that's slightly too small. And because this is spruce, a nice soft wood, if I have a fit that's very, very close but just a hair too small, I actually like to just kind of force the two pieces together, which compresses the spruce a little bit at that point, but that's okay, as long as you're being reasonable about it. It's actually a nice way to do your joinery with softwood, is to aim for just a little bit undersized and then allow the wood to be compressed when you just kind of force it together. So the first thing that I did when all these were separate, all these individual pieces, was I radiused them. I have a contour gauge here that I modified with this little bar underneath. And the point of that bar is so that I can take a piece of brace wood, rest it on that bar, and real quickly trace out the radius. Because for a 12-foot radius, which is what this is a very large radius, a very domed radius, there's a lot of wood to remove on a large radius like that. So I like to mark it first so that before I go straight to the sanding dish, I can take a thumb plane or a finger plane and just remove the bulk of the material that way. And then I go to the sanding dish, my radius dish, and first I radius each piece individually, but then once the whole lattice is constructed, I can take this whole unit and very gently sand it in the dish just to fine tune it. Okay, so moving forward with today, the first thing I'm going to do is glue down this whole unit right here and then attach those transverse connecting braces there that I talked about earlier. Then I'll probably move on to the soundboard, but hey, whatever I do, you'll see it in the next video, okay, for day 4. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments, and we will get to it in the next Q&A video. I will see you guys tomorrow for day 4.
If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaferguitars.com or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.